My sister revealed she was pregnant with my husband's baby at my birthday dinner, expecting me to break down in front of everyone. Instead, I raised my glass and shared one medical report that changed the entire conversation and left the room in shock. I revealed the results of the fertility test he took last month, and suddenly everyone knew. The thing about revenge is that it tastes better when served with a smile. That's what I kept telling myself as I sat at the head of the table in LeBlanc, surrounded by the people I thought I could trust most in the world. My name is Andrea, and this was supposed to be my 30th birthday dinner. The crystal glasses caught the light, just so making the expensive champagne sparkle like tiny stars. My husband Renee's hand rested possessively on my shoulder as he raised his glass. "To my beautiful wife," he said, his voice carrying that hint of charm that once made me weak in the knees. "Happy birthday, darling." My sister Rose shifted in her seat, her perfectly manicured fingers fidgeting with her water glass. She hadn't touched her champagne, which should have been my first clue if I hadn't already known what was coming. "Actually," Rose interrupted just as everyone was about to drink, "I have an announcement to make." My mother Linda beamed, already knowing, of course. She knew she always knew everything about Rose first. "I'm pregnant." Rose's voice rang out across the private dining room. The silence that followed lasted exactly 2 seconds before she added the punchline. "And Renee's the father." I felt Renee's hand tighten on my shoulder, not in guilt, but in preparation for my reaction. They all expected hysteria, tears, maybe even a scene. The restaurant staff hovered nervously at the edges of the room. I took a slow sip of my champagne. "That's interesting," I said, my voice steady. "Very interesting indeed." "Andrea," my mother started, her tone already taking that scolding edge she'd perfected over the years. "Don't make a scene." I smiled, reaching for my purse. "Oh, I wouldn't dream of it, Mother. In fact, I have my own announcement to make." I pulled out a cream-colored envelope. "You see, I've been wondering why Renee and I couldn't conceive for the past 3 years. Rose's triumphant smile faltered slightly. Renee's hand left my shoulder. "Andrea, this isn't the time," he said quietly, warning in his voice. "Actually, it's the perfect time." I unfolded the medical report with careful precision. "Because according to Dr. Matthews at the fertility clinic, my dear husband has what they call azoospermia, 0 sperm count." I looked directly at Rose. In layman's terms, he's completely infertile. The sound of Mary's fork clattering against her plate echoed through the room. Rose's face drained of color so quickly I thought she might faint. That's impossible," she stammered. "The test must be wrong." "That's what I thought, too," I said, pulling out a second envelope. So I had him tested again. Different clinic, different doctor, same result. I smiled at Renee, who had gone completely still beside me. "Would you like to see the dates, darling? Both tests were from last month. You had me tested without my knowledge." Renee's voice shook with anger. "Oh, like you've been so honest with me." I turned to face him fully. 3 years of trying, 3 years of you telling me maybe I was the problem, 3 years of watching you comfort my sister through her visits while I cried myself to sleep. Linda stood up abruptly. "This is absolutely inappropriate." "No, Mother, what's inappropriate is your precious Rose screwing my husband and then trying to pass off someone else's baby as his." I stood up, gathering my purse. "So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to walk out of here with my dignity intact, and you two," I looked between Rose and Renee, "can figure out how to explain to everyone why you lied." "That test," Renee grabbed my arm as I turned to leave. "It was wrong, wasn't it?" I leaned in close enough to smell his cologne, the same cologne I'd smelled on Rose's jacket last month. "Oh no, darling, I double-checked twice." I pulled my arm free. "And I have so much more proof where that came from." As I walked toward the door, Rose's voice cracked behind me. "Andrea, wait, I can explain." I paused at the doorway, turning back one last time. "Save your explanation for your baby's real father, Rose. I'm sure he'd love to hear it." The last thing I saw as I left was Mary pulling out her phone, no doubt already dialing everyone in her considerable social network. By morning, everyone would know, and that was exactly what I wanted, because revenge isn't just about exposing lies. It's about watching them scramble to piece together a truth they can't possibly explain, and I was just getting started. 6 weeks earlier, I was sitting in my home office when the first real evidence landed in my lap. Not the subtle signs I'd been ignoring, the lingering hugs, the inside jokes, the way Rose's visits always coincided with Renee's work-from-home days. No, this was an actual email accidentally left open on our shared iPad. "We need to be more careful," Rose had written. "A is getting suspicious." I stared at those words until they burned into my retinas. A not Andrea, not sister, just A, like I was some obstacle to be managed. The next morning, I called Angela. I need you to meet me for coffee, I said, and I need you to not ask questions until we're face to face. 20 minutes later, we sat in a corner booth at Cafe Luna away from prying ears. Show me again, Angela said, squinting at the email on my phone. This could mean anything, right? Look at the timestamp. 11:47 p.m. Why is my sister emailing my husband at midnight? Angela's face hardened. What are you going to do? First, I'm going to visit Dr. Matthews. I stirred my untouched coffee. Remember how Renee insisted on handling all the fertility appointments? How he always came back with vague explanations about keeping trying? You think he was lying about the results? I think I'm done letting other people tell me what's true. Dr. Matthews' office was exactly as I remembered, sterile, professional, with that faint smell of antiseptic that all medical offices share. The receptionist recognized me immediately. Mrs. Jensen, we haven't seen you in months. I need copies of all our test results, I said. Everything you have on file for both me and my husband. She hesitated. Usually Mr. Jensen handles all the paperwork. I'm aware, but as his wife and patient, I have a legal right to access our medical records. I smiled, channeling Rose's sweet manipulation tactics. Unless there's some reason I shouldn't see them. 15 minutes later, I sat in my car, hands shaking as I read through the files. My results were normal, had always been normal, but Renee's. There were no results, no tests, nothing. He never took them. I told Angela later that day. 3 years of trying, and he never once got tested. That bastard, Angela whispered. But why control? I said simply, as long as we were trying, he had an excuse for everything. My depression, just hormone treatments. My suspicions, baby stress. My isolation, doctor's orders to avoid stress. I pulled out my planner, the one Renee always teased me about keeping instead of using my phone. So I made an appointment, told him it was a romantic dinner, had him drink champagne laced with sleeping pills. Angela's eyes widened. Andrea, don't worry, perfectly safe dose, just enough to make him sleep deeply while the clinic ran their tests. That's when I got the first results. And the second test, same method, different clinic, I needed to be sure. I closed my planner. But that's not even the interesting part. Last week, I saw Rose at the same fertility clinic. She was leaving just as I arrived for the second test results. Angela leaned forward. You think she's actually pregnant? Oh, I know she is. She's been avoiding wine at family dinners, making excuses about antibiotics. I pulled out my phone, showing Angela a series of photos. She's also been meeting someone, not Renee. The photo showed Rose outside a cafe, then getting into a car. The driver's face was clear in one shot, a handsome man with dark hair. His name is Ricky, I said, her ex from college. I found him on social media. They've been liking each other's posts for months. So the baby might not be Renee's at all. She's probably using their affair to trap him, make him leave you. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. The irony is she doesn't know he can't father children. He's been lying to her, too. Angela reached across the table, squeezing my hand. What's your plan? I pulled out an invitation, cream-colored, elegant. My birthday dinner. I'm going to let them make their grand announcement, let them think they've won. My voice was steady, cold, and then I'm going to destroy everything they thought they knew. Andrea, Angela said softly, this isn't just revenge. This is nuclear. I met her eyes. They didn't just betray me, Angela. They made me doubt my sanity, my worth, my ability to be a mother. I tucked the invitation back into my bag. I don't just want revenge. I want implications. Destruction, accountability. And after, I smiled, thinking of the apartment I'd already leased, the lawyer I'd contacted, the evidence I'd gathered. After, I'm going to build a life so good, they'll choke on the ashes of what they lost. The restaurant erupted into chaos after I left. Through the glass doors, I heard Rose's shrill voice. She's lying. She has to be lying. I made it halfway to my car before Mary caught up with me, her heels clicking rapidly on the pavement. Andrea, wait. She grabbed my elbow, her voice low. I always thought something was off about Rose. The way she'd hang around Renee's office parties, always touching his arm, laughing too loud at his jokes. You knew. I suspected, but I didn't want to see it. Mary glanced back at the restaurant. What are you going to do now? Now I'm going home to pack a bag. When I pulled into our driveway, Renee's car was already there. I found him pacing in the kitchen, phone in hand. Where have you been? I've called you 6 times. I walked past him to the bedroom, pulling out the suitcase I'd hidden in the back of my closet weeks ago. Andrea, stop. We need to talk about this. He followed me, hovering in the doorway. That test, there must be some mistake. We can get another opinion. 3 years. I said, not looking at him as I packed 3 years of watching me blame myself, take medications, go to therapy, all while you were screwing my sister. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? I finally turned to face him. Explain it to me, Renee. Explain how you could watch me cry every month when my period came, knowing you couldn't get me pregnant even if you wanted to. His phone buzzed. Rose's face flashed on the screen. You should answer that, I said, zipping up my suitcase. Sounds like your girlfriend needs you. Where are you going? Away from you. My phone vibrated as I drove. Rose had sent a series of messages. We need to stick to our story. She's bluffing. Answer me. You're ruining everything. I turned off my phone and drove to Angela's house. She was waiting on her porch with a bottle of wine and 2 glasses. Mary called, she said as I sat down. Apparently Rose had a complete meltdown after you left, started screaming about how you've always been jealous of her. I took a long sip of wine. Remember 2 months ago when I said I saw Rose at the fertility clinic? Yeah, I did more than just see her. I pulled out my phone and opened a photo. I followed her inside. The image showed Rose talking to a nurse, her hand resting on her still flat stomach. She was there for a prenatal appointment. I said, but get this, she used her old insurance card, the one from when she was still with Ricky. Angela's eyes widened. Her ex. The same ex she's been secretly meeting for coffee. I showed her another photo, Rose and Ricky outside a cafe, his hand on her lower back. I found his profile. He's been posting cryptic messages about second chances and unexpected blessings. Holy shit. Angela grabbed her laptop. Let me look him up. While she typed, my phone lit up with a text from Mary. Renee is telling everyone you're having a mental breakdown. Rose is backing him up. Found him. Angela turned the screen toward me. Look at his social media. There it was, a hidden folder on Ricky's profile, photos of him and Rose from various dates over the past few months, carefully untagged, but not deleted. The timestamps, Angela pointed out. These are from right around when she would have gotten pregnant. My phone buzzed again. This time it was my mother. Andrea, she said, when I answered, her voice tight with anger. What you did tonight was unforgivable. What I did? What about what Rose did? She's your sister and now she's carrying your husband's child. I cut her off with a laugh. No, mother. She's carrying someone else's child and trying to pass it off as Renee's. But don't worry, I'm sure that won't affect her status as your perfect daughter. You've always been jealous of her. No, I said quietly. I've always been your scapegoat, but not anymore. I hung up as Angela discovered something else, a comment Ricky had left on one of Rose's photos from a holiday party 4 months ago. Best night of my life. Andrea, Angela said slowly, you need to talk to him. I nodded, already composing an email. Oh, I plan to. But first I need to make a few calls, starting with Renee's company. What are you going to tell them? I smiled, thinking of the financial documents I discovered while searching for evidence of the affair. The truth, that their VP of finance has been falsifying reports. And that's just the beginning, because revenge isn't just about exposing lies. It's about pulling every thread until the whole tapestry unravels. I met Ricky at a quiet coffee shop downtown, far from my usual haunts. He was already there when I arrived, fidgeting with a paper cup, looking exactly like his photos, handsome in that boy-next-door way that Rose had always preferred. Thanks for meeting me, I said, sliding into the seat across from him. I'm Andrea, Rose's sister. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Look, I'm not sure what this is about. I think you know exactly what this is about. I placed my phone on the table screen up, showing a photo of him and Rose outside the fertility clinic. 4 months ago, holiday party at the Grand. Ring any bells? His face paled. She said she was single. Of course she did. I took a sip of my coffee. She's pregnant, Ricky, and she's trying to pass it off as my husband's baby. He knocked over his cup, coffee spilling across the table. She's what? Pregnant. About 4 months along, I'd say. Interesting timing, wouldn't you agree? Ricky grabbed napkins, mopping up the spill with shaking hands. We used protection. She said she was on birth control. Rose has always been creative with the truth. I pulled out a document. I need you to sign this. What is it? Consent for a paternity test, just in case. He stared at the paper for a long moment. If I sign this, Rose will know I talked to you. Rose is already going to lose everything, I said quietly. The question is, do you want to know the truth? He signed. Meanwhile, across town, Renee's carefully constructed world was crumbling. His assistant forwarded me an email chain. His colleagues were avoiding him. His boss was reconsidering his position, and the board had called an emergency meeting. I'd sent them an anonymous tip about the falsified reports along with copies of his fertility tests, and a carefully worded suggestion about trustworthiness. My phone buzzed with a text from Angela. Rose just showed up at your mom's house. Full waterworks. I drove there, parking across the street. Through the living room window, I could see Rose sobbing on the couch, my mother patting her hand. The perfect victim as always. I walked in without knocking. How dare you? Rose sprang up, mascara streaking her cheeks. You're trying to ruin my life. You ruined your own life, I said calmly. I'm just exposing the truth. Truth? My mother stood up. The truth is you're trying to hurt your sister because you couldn't keep your husband happy. Really, Mother? That's your take? That I somehow forced Rose to sleep with my husband? You were always so cold, Linda spat, so focused on your career. What did you expect? I laughed, the sound sharp and bitter. I expected my sister not to be a whore. I expected my husband not to be a liar. I expected my mother to have a spine. Get out, Rose screamed. Get out of my house. Your house. I raised an eyebrow. You mean the house Renee bought for Mom using money he embezzled from his company? That house. The color drained from both their faces. What are you talking about? Linda whispered. Oh, you didn't know Renee's been cooking the books for years using company money to fund his little projects, including this house. I smiled. The board is meeting right now to discuss it. My phone pinged. An email from the testing facility, paternity result match confirmed, Ricky Bowen. Perfect timing, I said, opening the attachment. Would you like to know who really got you pregnant, Rose? She lunged for my phone, but I held it out of reach. Don't worry, everyone will know soon enough. I'm sure Ricky will be thrilled to hear he's going to be a father. You bitch! Rose swung at me, but I stepped back. You're lying, like you lied about the baby being Renee's, like you lied about being on birth control with Ricky, like you've been lying your entire life. Linda grabbed my arm. Stop this! Stop it right now! I pulled free. No, Mother, I'm done stopping. I'm done being quiet. I'm done watching Rose destroy everything she touches while you clean up her messes. I'll deny it, Rose said, her voice shaking. No one will believe you. They already do. I headed for the door, pausing in the doorway. By the way, Renee's company just called. They're freezing all his assets, including this house. You might want to start packing. As I walked to my car, I could hear Rose's screams through the open window, but for the first time in my life, they didn't make me feel guilty. They made me feel free. The family brunch was my idea. I sent out a group text suggesting we all meet to talk things through civilly. Angela thought I was crazy, but she didn't see my smile when everyone agreed. I chose the country club neutral territory with plenty of witnesses. More importantly, it had an excellent audiovisual system for presentations. Rose arrived first, wearing a flowing dress that highlighted her small baby bump. She'd clearly been crying, but her chin was lifted in defiance. I'm only here because Mom insisted, she said, sliding into her seat. Of course you are. I smiled, watching the others file in, my mother, Mary, Renee, even a few extended family members who'd heard about the drama. Andrea, Renee started. Can we talk privately first? Oh no, darling. Everything I have to say, I'll say in front of everyone. Once everyone was seated, I stood up, smoothing my dress. I want to apologize for my behavior at my birthday dinner. Rose's face lit up with vindication. My mother nodded approvingly. I shouldn't have exposed your lies so abruptly, I continued. I should have been more thorough. Before anyone could respond, I pulled out a remote and clicked it. The club's large TV screen flickered to life. What is this? Rose demanded. This, I said, is the paternity test results I received yesterday. The document appeared on screen, highlighting the match between Ricky and Rose's unborn child. Congratulations, Sister Ricky's going to be a daddy. The room erupted. Rose jumped up, knocking over her water glass. You can't do this. I already did. I clicked again. Photos of Rose and Ricky appeared, their secret meetings, the fertility clinic, visits, the holiday party. You remember Ricky, don't you, Renee, Rose's ex, who she was sleeping with while trying to trap you? Renee stood up so fast his chair fell backward. You told me he was out of the picture. She tells everyone what they want to hear, I said calmly, just like you told me I was the reason we couldn't have children. Andrea, stop this immediately. My mother's voice shook with rage. Why? Because it's embarrassing. Because it ruins your perfect image of your perfect daughter. I clicked again. Bank statements appeared on screen. Speaking of ruined images, let's talk about how Renee paid for your house, Mother. Linda went pale. What? Company funds, I explained. Embezzled, of course, along with the money he's been funneling to Rose for her pregnancy needs, though I suppose sleeping with two men at once can get expensive. Rose lunged at me, but Mary caught her arm. Don't, Mary warned. You've done enough damage. Me, Rose screamed. She's the one destroying everything. No, Rose, you destroyed everything the moment you thought you could take what was mine. I turned to Renee. By the way, your company's legal team wants to meet with me tomorrow. Something about being a material witness. Renee sank into his chair, head in his hands. His carefully constructed world was crashing down around him. You've lost your mind, my mother said, but her voice wavered. Actually, I finally found it. I clicked one last time. A video began playing Rose and Renee in his office planning how to tell me about the pregnancy, planning how to break me. How did you get that? Renee demanded. You really should change your email password, darling, and check your office for recording devices. I gathered my purse. Oh, and Rose Ricky's lawyer will be contacting you. Something about fraud and emotional damages. I'll deny everything, she hissed. With what proof? The paternity test is legally binding, the financial records are clear, the video speaks for itself. I smiled. But please try to deny it. I'm sure the media would love to hear your side. The media? Rose's voice cracked. Did I forget to mention Mary's been live streaming this whole conversation to her social media? Say hi to your followers, Rose. Mary held up her phone, still recording. Rose's face crumpled as she saw the comments flooding in. You thought you loved center stage, I said softly. How's the spotlight feeling now? My phone buzzed. Renee's company calling again. I answered on speaker. Mrs. Jensen, this is Howard from legal. We need to discuss some irregularities in your husband's financial documentation. Of course, I said, watching Renee's face drain of color. I'll bring everything I have to our meeting tomorrow. I hung up and faced my shattered family one last time. I'd love to stay and chat, but I have a meeting with my lawyer. Divorce papers don't file themselves. As I walked out, I heard Rose collapse into sobs, my mother's frantic attempts to comfort her and Mary's quiet voice still narrating to her followers. But I didn't look back. I didn't need to. The truth was finally out, and it was more devastating than any lie they could have told. My mother showed up at my temporary apartment the next day, uninvited and unannounced. She looked older than I'd ever seen her, the weight of scandal aging her overnight. We need to talk about what you've done, she said, pushing past me into the living room. What I've done? I closed the door quietly. Not what Rose did, not what Renee did. I always feared you'd inherit your father's coldness. She sat down, smoothing her skirt with trembling hands. This calculated revenge, it's exactly what he would have done. Don't you dare compare me to him. I remained standing. He abandoned us. I'm protecting myself. By destroying your sister's life, your husband's career, they destroyed themselves. I just exposed the truth. My phone buzzed. Angela texting that she'd found something else. Before I could read it, my mother spoke again. Rose is devastated. She can barely eat, barely sleep. Like I did for 3 years. I cut her off. While she was sleeping with my husband, while you were helping her hide it. Linda's face went white. I never... Save it. Mary told me everything. The girls' lunches where you helped Rose plan how to tell me. The money you helped her hide. I pulled out my phone showing her the transfer records. Did you think I wouldn't find out? I was trying to protect the family. No, you were protecting Rose like always. I sat across from her. Tell me something, Mother. When did you stop loving me? Don't be dramatic. Was it when Dad left? When I refused to play the perfect daughter role? Or was it when I started succeeding without your help? The silence stretched between us until Angela burst through the door waving papers. Andrea, you need to see this. Oh, she stopped short at the sight of my mother. Sorry, I didn't know. It's fine, I said. What did you find? Angela glanced at Linda before continuing. Renee took out a loan in your name. $50,000 transferred to Rose's account 3 months ago. My mother's sharp intake of breath confirmed what I'd suspected. You knew about this too, didn't you? Rose needed help, Linda whispered. The fertility treatments, the prenatal care. The fertility treatments she didn't need because she was already pregnant by someone else. I laughed bitterly. Or the prenatal care she charged to Ricky's insurance. Angela handed me the loan documents. There's more. The bank is investigating fraud. They've frozen all joint accounts. Good. I turned to my mother. You should probably warn Rose her credit cards might stop working soon. Linda stood up, swaying slightly. You're going to regret this vindictiveness. No, Mother. I regret the years I spent trying to please you. I regret believing Rose could change. I regret trusting Renee. I opened the door. But this I'll never regret. After she left, Angela poured us both a glass of wine. You okay? I stared at the loan documents, feeling the weight of years of deception. No, but I will be. My phone rang. Ryland, my lawyer. Andrea, we need to meet now. An hour later, I sat in his office listening as he laid out the extent of Renee's financial fraud. It's worse than we thought, Ryland said, spreading documents across his desk. He's been embezzling for years, using company funds for personal expenses, falsifying reports. And the loan he took out in my name, we can prove fraud. Your signature was forged. He leaned back. The company wants to press charges. They're asking for your cooperation. I thought about Renee's smug face every time he dismissed my concerns about Rose's triumphant smile at my birthday dinner, about my mother's constant defense of their betrayal. What do you need from me? Everything. Emails, texts, financial records. Ryland smiled grimly. They want to make an example of him. Good. I pulled out a USB drive. Because I have everything. That night alone in my apartment, I finally broke down. Not over losing Renee. That pain had dulled to nothing more than wounded pride. Not over Rose's betrayal. I'd always known she was capable of it. No, I cried for the years I'd wasted trying to be the perfect daughter, wife, sister. For the family I thought I had, for the life I'd built on lies. My phone lit up with a text from Angela. Turn on the news. There it was. Renee's company announcing an internal investigation into financial fraud, Rose's social media accounts going dark after a flood of negative comments, my mother's country club membership being reviewed due to recent events. The carefully constructed facade was crumbling, and beneath it lay the ugly truth. They had all chosen their roles in this drama. Now they had to face the consequences of their performance. The security alarm woke me at 3 a.m. I was already reaching for my phone when I heard glass breaking downstairs. Andrea, Renee's voice slurred and angry. I know you're here. I pressed the emergency button on my phone, the one Ryland had insisted I install after filing the restraining order. Then I called Angela. He's here, I whispered. Renee broke in. Police are on their way, she said. Don't engage, stay in your room. But Renee was already stumbling up the stairs, his footsteps heavy and uneven. You ruined everything, he shouted. My job, my reputation. Your ability to steal money. I called back, grabbing the baseball bat I'd started keeping by my bed. Your chance to play happy families with my sister? He appeared in my doorway, disheveled and reeking of alcohol. You think you're so smart? He sneered. But you're just a cold, bitter woman who couldn't keep her husband happy. And you're just a pathetic thief who couldn't keep it in his pants. I held the bat ready. Get out before the police arrive. He lunged forward, but years of drunken behavior had slowed his reflexes. I dodged easily, bringing the bat down on his knee. He howled in pain, crumpling to the floor just as police sirens wailed outside. You broke the restraining order, I said calmly, watching him writhe. That's going to look great in court. The police burst in moments later, weapons drawn. Renee was still cursing as they cuffed him, reading him his rights over his drunken protests. You'll want to add breaking and entering to the charges. I told the officers, pointing to my security cameras. I have it all on video. The next morning, Angela arrived with coffee and news. Rose's influencer status is tanking. She's lost half her followers overnight. How tragic, I said, scrolling through the headlines. Maternity queen Rose Holland, exposed in family scandal, was trending. She's been trying to do damage control, Angela continued, claiming it was all a misunderstanding, that you're mentally unstable. Is that why she's been hiding from Rick's lawyers? I showed her an email from Ryland. They're filing a civil suit. Apparently lying about paternity for financial gain is frowned upon. My phone buzzed a text from Mary. Rose just tried to get into the country club. They revoked her membership. She had a meltdown in the lobby. Your sister always did love an audience, Angela said. Speaking of audiences, I pulled up a local news website. Renee's arrest was front page news, complete with his mugshot and details of the financial investigation. Have you heard from your mother? She's been calling nonstop. I showed her my blocked calls list. Probably wants me to drop the charges against Renee, save the family name. Some family. I decided to end this chapter where it began, at the cafe where I'd first seen Rose meeting Ricky. She was already there when I arrived, looking smaller, somehow her designer clothes replaced with plain maternity wear. Come to gloat, she asked as I sat down. No, I came to give you this. I handed her a gift bag. She opened it cautiously, pulling out a pacifier wrapped in newspaper clippings about her scandal. Her face crumpled. Why are you doing this to me? Because you need to understand something, Rose. I leaned forward. This isn't about revenge anymore. It's about consequences. Every choice you made, every lie you told led to this moment. I never meant. Yes, you did. You meant to steal my husband. You meant to pass off another man's child as his. You meant to destroy my life. I stood up. But here's the thing about destruction. Rose, sometimes it rebounds. I hate you, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. No, you hate yourself, and that's not my problem anymore. I dropped a manila envelope on the table. By the way, Ricky's lawyers asked me to give you this. They're seeking full custody once the baby's born. Her sobs followed me out of the cafe, but I didn't look back. I didn't need to see her pain to know it was real. My phone buzzed one last time, a message from Ryland. Renee is pleading guilty to all charges. The company wants to settle 7 figures. I smiled, thinking of the new life waiting for me, the freedom I'd fought for, the peace I'd finally found, because sometimes the best revenge isn't just exposing the truth. It's watching karma do its work while you walk away clean. The moving truck pulled away from my new apartment, leaving me alone in a space that was finally completely mine. Sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, warming the hardwood floors. No traces of Renee, no echoes of Rose, just peace. My phone buzzed Angela, arriving with housewarming wine. This place is gorgeous, she said, taking in the view of the city. How does it feel? Like freedom. I uncorked the bottle. Did you see the news about Renee's sentencing? 8 years seems light considering what he stole. The money wasn't the point. I handed her a glass. It was the lies, the manipulation, the way he made me doubt myself for years. Speaking of manipulation, Angela pulled out her phone. Rose had her baby yesterday. I know. Ricky's lawyer called me. I smiled. DNA test was done immediately. He's filing for full custody given her unstable behavior and history of fraud. Your mother must be thrilled. Wouldn't know, haven't spoken to her since she tried to bribe me to drop the charges against Renee. I sat on my new couch, running my hand over the soft fabric. She chose her side, now she can live with it. The doorbell rang, Mary carrying a plant and a thick envelope. Thought you might want to see this, she said, handing me the envelope. Renee's sister sent it. She found these while cleaning out his office. Inside were photos me and Renee in happier times, family gatherings, holidays. At the bottom was a letter from Rose to Renee dated 3 years ago. She's too focused on her career, too cold. You deserve better. We deserve better. They were planning this for years, I said quietly. And now they have nothing, Mary replied. Renee's in prison. Rose lost her baby to Ricky. Your mother's house is being seized as part of the settlement. Karma's quite the architect, Angela mused. My phone lit up with a text from Ryland. Settlement check cleared. You're officially a very wealthy woman. What will you do with it? Mary asked. Already done. I showed them my laptop screen, a confirmation email for a major donation to a fertility support organization. They help women who've been manipulated or abused during fertility struggles. Taking something ugly and making it beautiful, Angela said softly. That's the thing about revenge, I replied. It's not about destroying others, it's about rebuilding yourself. The doorbell rang again. This time it was a delivery, a large package from the fertility clinic where I'd first discovered Renee's lies. Inside was a letter. Dear Miss Jensen, we were moved by your story and your donation. We'd like to offer you our services free of charge whenever you're ready to start your own family on your own terms. Are you going to? Angela asked. Maybe, but not because I need a baby to be complete, not because society expects it. Only if and when I choose. I walked to the windows, watching the sunset paint the city gold behind me. Angela and Mary chatted about dinner plans, their voices warm and genuine. Real friendship, not the fake support my family had offered. My phone buzzed one last time, Rose calling from an unknown number. I declined the call and blocked it. You know what I learned from all this? I said, turning back to my friends. They expected me to collapse, to break down, to need their version of love so badly I'd forgive anything. But you didn't, Angela said. No, instead I built myself a balcony to watch them fall. To karma. I raised my glass. To karma, they echoed. Later that night, alone in my new home, I found one last photo at the bottom of the envelope, me as a child smiling fearlessly at the camera. Before Rose's manipulation, before Renee's lies, before my mother's conditional love. I pinned it to my mirror, a reminder not of what I'd lost, but of what I'd found, my strength, my worth, my voice. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't just watching your enemies fall, it's rising so far above them that they become nothing more than a cautionary tale in your success story. I took one last look at the city lights before closing my curtains. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, new chapters. But tonight, in this space, I'd carved out of their destruction. I was finally completely at peace. Not because they'd lost everything, but because I'd found myself.